Bow down, or burn alive. That was the choice laid before three men in front of an entire empire. 10,000 people fell to the ground. 3 stayed standing. They chose the fire. And what walked out of that furnace changed the mind of a king and echoes to this day. The most powerful man in the world was King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. He had conquered nations, burned Jerusalem, and carried its people into exile. And now, drunk on his own glory, he built a monument to himself. 90 feet of solid gold, towering over the plain of Dura. He summoned every ruler, every official, every governor in his empire to its dedication. And he made a decree. When the music played, the horn, the flute, the harp, every living soul was to fall down and worship the image of gold. And whoever would not bow would be thrown, that very hour, into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. To refuse was to die. But in that crowd stood 3 Hebrew men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, exiles, foreigners, and yet promoted by the king's own hand to rule over the province of Babylon. They had everything to lose: power, position, their very lives. And they knew the God of heaven does not share his glory with a statue of gold. Then the moment came. The signal was given. The horn sounded, the flute, the harp, and across the plain of Dura, a wave of humanity fell to the ground. As far as the eye could see, every head bowed low to the golden image. Every head but 3, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, stood, silent, unmoved. And there were men watching, jealous men, who hated that foreigners had been given power. This was their chance. They ran to the king. "O king, live forever. There are certain Jews you have set over the province, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men do not regard you. They do not serve your gods. They will not worship your golden image." The king was filled with rage. He commanded the 3 be brought before him, and face to face with the men who defied him, he gave them one final chance. "Is it true? When you hear the music, will you fall down and worship the image I have made? But if you will not, you will be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace." And then came his taunt. "And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands?" Their answer is one of the most fearless statements in all of Scripture. "O Nebuchadnezzar, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto you, O king, that we will not serve your gods, nor worship the golden image you have set up. Even if God does not save us, we still will not bow." That is faith that has died to fear, and it broke the king's pride in half. Sit with the weight of what they said. If not, they did not claim to know the outcome. They did not say, "God will surely rescue us, so we have nothing to fear." They said the opposite. "Our God is able to deliver us, and even if he does not, we still will not bow." This is the highest form of faith there is. Not faith that God will do what you want, but faith that God is worthy even if he does not. Most people will follow God as long as he keeps the fire away from them. These 3 would follow him into it. Their obedience was not a transaction. It was worship. And that kind of faith, heaven cannot ignore. The command went out, and the great furnace was stoked to a fury the world had never seen. 7 times hotter. The metal of its mouth glowed white. The heat rolled off it in waves that bent the air. And still the 3 men did not run. They did not bargain. They did not fall to their knees at the last second and beg for their lives. They let themselves be bound. Watch this closely. The only chains in this story were put on them by men on the outside. On the inside, they were the freest men in all of Babylon. Because a man who has already surrendered his life to God has nothing left that fear can hold on to. Nebuchadnezzar's face twisted with fury. He gave the command that the furnace be heated 7 times hotter than it had ever been heated before. 7 times hotter. So hot the air itself shimmered and warped. He called for the strongest soldiers in his army to bind the 3 men. They were bound in their coats, their robes, their hats, fully clothed, and carried toward the roaring mouth of the fire. The fire was so fierce, so unnaturally hot, that as the mighty soldiers lifted them to the opening, the flames reached out. And the very soldiers who threw them in were killed instantly by the heat. And the 3 men fell, bound, into the heart of the fire. This should have been the end. 3 bodies, consumed in seconds. The crowd waited for ash. But then the king saw something that made his blood run cold. Nebuchadnezzar rose up in haste, astonished. He turned to his counselors and said, "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire?" They answered, "True, O king." And the king spoke the words that have echoed for thousands of years. "Lo, I see 4 men, loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God." 4 men, not 3. They were thrown in bound. Now they walked free. The ropes, the only thing the fire touched, had burned away, and they were not alone. God did not keep them from the fire. He met them inside it. And the king who had demanded worship now issued a new decree across all his empire, that no one should speak a word against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, for there is no other God who can deliver like this. Think of it. Their refusal to bow did more for the name of God than 1,000 sermons ever could. The very furnace meant to erase them became the stage that displayed God to an empire. That is what God does with your fire. He does not waste it. The thing the enemy sends to destroy you, God uses to reveal himself through you. So if you are walking through the flames tonight, do not beg only for escape. Look for the 4th man. Because the presence of God in the fire is greater than the absence of the fire itself. You were not thrown in to be forgotten. You were brought through to become a testimony. The king came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace. The proud man who had asked, "Who is that God?" now called out, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out and come here." And they walked out. The governors, the captains, the king's counselors all gathered around them, and they saw the impossible. The fire had no power over their bodies. Not a hair of their heads was singed. Their coats were not changed. There was not even the smell of smoke on them. And Nebuchadnezzar, the most powerful man on earth, publicly reversed himself. Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him. And the king promoted them higher than before. The men who chose the fire were exalted above every man who bowed. Here is the truth that furnace still preaches today. God did not stop them from being thrown in. Sometimes he won't stop your fire either. But look again at the fire. They lost their chains and they gained his presence. The only thing that burned was what bound them. And the God who walked in with them still walks into furnaces today. If you are in a fire right now, a fire you prayed would pass and it didn't, hear this. You are not in there alone. There is a 4th man in your fire. This is the Adullam room. God gathers the broken, and he sends out the mighty. New mighty men stories every week. Subscribe and take your place in the cave. So let me ask you the question this story has been asking for thousands of years. What is your golden image? What is the thing the world is demanding you bow to, or lose everything? For you, it may not be a statue. It may be a job that asks you to compromise, a crowd that mocks your faith, a fear that whispers you will lose it all if you stand. Hear the answer of 3 men in the fire. Our God is able to deliver us, and if not, we still will not bow. That is the faith of people who decided, long before the furnace, that God was worth more than their own lives. Decide it now, before your fire comes. Because when the heat rises, you will not rise to the level of your good intentions. You will fall to the level of what you already settled in your heart. So settle it now. He is worth it. And when you walk into your fire, look again. You will not be alone.